Welcome back to the SPL. Tolly, it's 2 sets down already. What is going on today?
I think that some of these matchups are a little bit lopsided, especially the last one.
Well, let's have a look at the standings first of all and see exactly how things are going so far today. So, schedule today, I should say. We've already seen Trifecta and Space Station Gaming perform today in their specific sets. United and Space Station Gaming coming out on top, but now it's all about Splyce versus CLG.
Should be an interesting one, considering that Splyce so far lost to LG, CLG finding the victories over Trifecta.
And now if you look at the standings coming into this set, now this is a big one for Splyce and CLG specifically too. CLG could separate themselves from the bottom three by finding the win here, and Splyce can climb up to that mid-table position to join LG and CLG.
It's very possible, but looking at the history between these two teams, out of the 4 matchups of spring and summer, Splyce won the very last one, but the prior 3 was all CLG.
And that's the fun thing about this set today is I'm really excited to see how these two teams work out, because I feel like Splyce haven't really moved. They've got TheBest playing for them today again. They did have Moswell, I believe, the week before, but for this game, they're going to be using TheBest again. Not sure why. They do have them on the bench, so maybe it's a super sub situation of certain compositions be run Best and certain ones be run Moswell.
It could be potentially the case here, knowing they're up against CLG, knowing Hurriwind likes to play a lot of Janus. Maybe they're just going to stick Janus on TheBest.
Maybe that's the case. And CLG, though, they're looking to try and really notch themselves as a top 3 NA team. I feel like they're always on the cusp of breaking into the top 3, but they dance around that area. They want to try and solidify that.
I think CLG definitely have a good identity, but I think that Splyce's identity is going to be a lot on their support player, Aror.
And talk about Aror, we've got an interview with him that we talked to him a little bit earlier on this week to see how he thought about these games today.
Hey, what's up, folks? F-Dot here, getting ready for the next matchup, sitting with Aror. First and foremost, the most important question. How you doing, man?
Good. How about you, F-Dot?
I'm chilling. Summertime was good to me. Summertime was good to you. I know you had some fun hanging out with your team in the team house. Now you're, kind of back separated. What were you able to kind of grab from that experience and now bring into the fall split?
I feel like we were able to get everybody more focused on what they should be doing, playing wise, and just the synergy you get from being in person with each other for so long is really nice.
Yeah, we really saw that come out. Splyce, you guys have been on the up and up, and then week 1 in the books. Talk to me big picture, right? Not about the last game that you played, but big picture. What are your overall plans for fall split and making it to HRX?
I mean, for me, and for the rest of the team, I like to take it week by week, game by game, so I'm not really looking to... Obviously, the main goal is to get to Worlds and then win Worlds. That's everybody's goal that plays, but... I mean, I'm just looking at the next games that are coming up, basically.
All right. We'll zoom in. We'll play your game, Aror. As we know, that's what you like to do. You set the pace. So let's play your game. Coming up next is Counter Logic Gaming. You're going to be going head-to-head against Hurriwind and the crew. How is your... what are you guys thinking about that?
We've been preparing pretty well for them. The last time we played them last split, it was our last game, and we ended up doing pretty well against them. So, I mean, we're just going to take... what we've seen from them in their previous games, because now that the first week's over, you get to actually prepare for teams a little bit better because you actually have information in the current SPL on them, because the first week's kind of weird because you don't really get that much information. You're kind of just going off of scrims and just seeing things in ranked and stuff like that, but when you actually see them playing in SPL, you know that those picks that they're playing are for real, and that's what they want to play. So the information's good, and we're going to go off that, and we're just going to play our game, basically.
So coming into this week, you guys have a shakeup. We're going to be seeing Moswell in that mid lane. Talk to me a little bit about how you acquired him and how he's changed the dynamic of Splyce overall.
So Moswell changed the dynamic of Splyce a lot because he has a really big god pool. He practices the game a lot, which is something that I look forward into a teammate, and he's just a good player overall. So I feel like the things that he brings to the team really help us, and it also helps the environment a lot. So acquiring him is a great thing, and we actually acquired him from the SML basically.
Thanks for joining us, Aurora. Good luck in your next matches, and we'll catch you next time, bud.
Thanks.
Peace.
So a nice little tune in there with Aror. Now, obviously, Moswell, we spoke about him there. He's not going to be playing today. It's going to be the best for Splyce. But still, like, this is what Aror's saying. Take each game as it comes. We've got a chance to see CLG. Let's see what they've got planned.
I think mechanically, between these two players, I think TheBest always has that step-up advantage. And Aror's words that interview was practice the game a lot. And knowing TheBest, he's a very gifted individual, but doesn't always practice as much as other players do. And I think going forward in the long term, I think this is why Splyce want to use Moswell.
I think there's also a big god pool was mentioned there too. But enough about that. We'll get on to the best and Moswell situation at the moment. We'll focus on TheBest and Splyce, as they are first pick this game. They're going to take away Morrigan, which is one of Hurriwind's go-tos for sure, and the Ratatoska.
Ratatoska, we saw what he was capable of on Lannister's hands, so knowing Homiefe on CLG, they're very similar players between Homiefe and Lannister, being really good teammates as well. When Lannister did make that switch in Season 3 to go mid, he was pairing up with Homiefe.
And a good jungler he is there too, but Splyce will get themselves their hands on Chernobog over plenty of contestable picks there. Still Baron available too. They're the real two that I'm expecting more often than not. And Athena seems to be climbing to the ban phase, so makes sense to see a fit.
Player-centric focus bans out of Splyce, leaving some of the elite S-tier picks. Baron and Athena instantly snap pick from CLG. I wouldn't be surprised if Splyce go for the Janus, though, trying to make sure that this doesn't get too far out of hand for dealing with the Athena, Baron, and potentially Janus.
Well, that Sobek could go towards a solo lane for Divios if they need it too. It's not too bad of a matchup against the Baron. Samedi can quite easily survive it. Or into the dual lane, but the Puch at third pick?
It has a lot of burst damage potential. It controls team fights as long as you get Gem of Isolation. Reduces a lot of healing, especially once you drop that ultimate.
And stuns if people heal.
Very true. So I think that this is not a bad idea. It also deters maybe some additional healing options. Knowing fineokay, he does like the Chang'e, but not going to run a Chang'e into an outwash.
You mentioned the Janus potentially for TheBest. Well, I think we're going to see Janus for Hurriwind now. He likes that god just as much, and he's had the opportunity to get it for himself. So it does telegraph Baron will be in the solo lane, more than likely, although could still support Athena jungle, Athena solo. There's definitely flexibility for CLG. Erlang Shen and Bakasura.
Knowing is Cyno playing jungle for Splyce. Erlang Shen instant snap banned. Bakasura to take that away from Homiefe. Susanoo. So a lot of jungle bans. Not too many left open.
Yeah, but look at the specific ones that CLG banned. They really went at Cyno here. They didn't dance around the houses with some of the other big names. They just focused on the ones that Cyno really likes. He loves Susanoo and Erlang Shen.
This should be a Circuit pick, if I'm not mistaken. Homiefe. No, it's going to be the Medusa. I thought that with all these jungle bans, you should go for a jungler immediately, because Splyce's next two picks is going to be a jungle and the support more than likely.
Well, it's going to be a second Hunter, so Chernobog in the mid lane, Puch in solo to take on Baron Samedi, Sobek in the support role, and Artio. Who's jungling? Who's jungling? Who's jungling, Splyce? Chernobog?
Yeah, I'm saying Chernobog potentially.
Puch?
Nah. It's got to be the Chernobog jungle, because you have the global pressure. As long as you have all the farm, the solo farm from the jungle, you should be able to make that impact.
I don't know about this one.
It could work.
I don't know. It's a bit suspect to me. Artio jungle?
No.
No.
No, you want to stick her in the solo lane.
I mean, gang potential seems low from any of them outside of Sobek, but then again, Sobek jungle does not appeal.
No.
In any stretch. CLG, though, will respond with the Nemesis, which really does hurt Artio and Sobek quite a lot there. I think that Nemesis pick is really strong for CLG.
The tank killer. You're either going Freya or Nemesis. We could even see some early Sunders to try to deal with that. We saw the Athena Sunder combination. We're probably going to see it again this game.
Well, you guys at home get to have your vote on who you think will win, but it's time to get to the action. John Finch and Taco are standing by. It's Taco's birthday. Say happy birthday, John.
Happy birthday, Taco. That's Finch saying that, unsolicited from Hindu Man. Just, wanted to say it
all
for
on
on
your own
broadcast.
accord.
Yeah, that was all me.
Thanks, Finch. I appreciate it. That was by far 100% your original idea, by the way.
Yeah.
I knew you were going to do that from the start, and you just,
Yeah.
He jumped in. He stole the spotlight.
It's the final set of the day. I was just waiting till it had the most impact. But, Hindu makes it all about him. It's
He's
fine.
going to be like, this is why I never do anything nice for you guys.
He doesn't, though. Why is he? Whatever. Splyce versus CLG. It is indeed the Chernobog in the jungle here, Taco. And talk to me a little bit about this, because yes, he has great rotation ability, but it feels like Chernobog's strength is that it's an extra member there instead of just the jungler ganking you like he normally is.
I think the best way to define my thought process on on this, Finch, is have you ever like gone somewhere and ordered a really nice ice cream sundae, and you're watching them put it all together, and then the next thing you know, the guy that's making it starts putting ketchup and mustard inside of the ice cream?
No, that's never happened to me.
That's
Where
what
do you
this
go?
felt like watching Splyce's draft, and whether or not they can make it work. I mean, Splyce is known for the unconventional, but it definitely threw me for a loop watching Cyno opt for that Chernobog in the jungle role.
Yeah, it was like the Xbalanque and the Artio that came through the back end as Splyce are able to successfully strip away the purple buff. That sort of started raising questions for us as we were watching, because we really did like, you know, the Chernobog that came through, right? The Puch, the Sobek, and not to say these, like, you know, the Xbalanque and the Artio cannot work, but just that, you know, it didn't seem quite as clear what their game plan was with those picks in there too.
Also important to note that it's going to be Best representing Splyce in the mid lane this time around, so Best a little bit more familiar, I think, than Moswell with the current competitive scene. I also think that this is rather interesting from Splyce that they're choosing to bring Best back in for this set. I'm curious if this is maybe foreshadowing as to Splyce maybe swapping out their mid laners more often, trying to get an edge over the competition, pending on what god pool they want to try and utilize.
It's definitely still a bit up in the air, as Jigz and Snoopy are a bit behind experience-wise down there at the very bottom of those charts. They haven't been farming quite as efficiently, but CycloneSpin and Aror will defend their own purple buff and come right back out with 1 buff advantage and see if they can try and normalize that lead.
And for what it's worth, this Splyce composition, all they've really got to do is make it out of the laning phases. If they can survive the laning phase and just transition everything over into the team fighting area, then you probably won't even ever notice that Splyce don't have a conventional jungle. I mean, they don't necessarily need the assassin. There's still a plenty healthy spread of damage between CycloneSpin and Cyno for both early, mid, and late stages of the match. The trick is just getting them there.
That's going to be the idea, and in all honesty, as long as, and Cyno shouldn't have too much trouble keeping up with the enemy jungler, so even if they're not able to make aggressive ganks the way you could with a jungler, I don't even think they're in that much trouble in the laning phase for this one. Maybe some questions about Best, if he can make sure he can make this mid Puch work. That's going to be going the damage build. Gotta watch out for Homie trying to track him down. Since he doesn't have much movement. But as long as that's okay, and like you said, they can make it throughout out that laning phase, then Splyce should be on essentially even footing.
Aurora and Cyclone already with a very clear pressure lead in the duo lane. And they're not going to choose to contest CLG on that purple buff. Instead, more interested in getting vision from those oracles by the Gold Fury. And I actually like this choice from Aurora and Cyclone. They don't actually have any of their own jungle farm to go and pick up, so may as well take the next best thing available.
Make sure to make the most of their time. Looking at Cyno, he really is serious about this, man. He's got the Blink as his first relic, the Blink Chernobog gank. I mean, and if he's able to get that root off, it can feel quite strong. That is some AoE control and a bunch of damage it's hard to get away from.
Speaking of damage, Best actually managing to strip away one of those left mid harpies from Hurriwind, so Ari probably not too happy about that one, and he's going to have to make sure to watch his spacing as well, because this Puch and the slows can really be tricky for a Janus player. Normally, you'd expect him to just dash on through the wall right away, but with all of the slows being factored in, that could be a prime opportunity for Splyce to just kill Hurriwind before he has a chance to escape.
It could be tough. They have some recognition here. Jigz went with the sprint first relic to try and get them away from some of these slows. It's going to be a necessity for them, so maybe it won't be too difficult. But with Homie here lurking in the jungle, we have to switch our attention over to the duo lane. Purple buff isn't up either, so this won't be a buff invade. It might be a gank, but no. Homie's just going to back. Splyce are too backed up to their tower.
Snoopy and Jigz just turn the pressure right around in that lane, and Aurora and Cyclone not all that interested in looking to challenge them back for it. When you have so much clear capabilities between the Medusa and the Baron, there's no reason for Cyclone to throw himself out of position just to get what might be a couple of in-hands or maybe the poison darts poke damage onto Snoopy.
What is interesting about this duo lane, though, Taco, is this level 5 power spike. It just feels like it's probably a lot bigger for CLG. I want to hear your thoughts on it, because like the life of the party and the petrify, how do you get away from those two gigantic cones, and Aurora not really getting the ultimate as the stance switcher, and CycloneSpin ult's not as big as like a boxing tool. I mean, it seems like maybe CLG will have the advantage once they both hit 5.
Possibly, but I think that would only come at the expense if Splyce are just not as mindful of their cooldowns. I think that every member of Splyce outside of Best on the Puch has a pretty solid escape against that life of the party. It's mostly going to be timing their counter initiation that could be very problematic for them during the earlier stages. I will agree with you on that I think in terms of responses, Splyce probably aren't really looking to fight until we get closer to 20 minutes.
I would not be surprised if Splyce don't really try and start fights at all unless something egregious happens from CLG sort of stepping out of position. But this is sort of an important match here, Taco, so I wouldn't be surprised if it's slow for that reason as well. These two teams, I think, both have some claim to that third spot in North America, right? If you think that E9 and Space Station are up at the top, which I certainly do, then CLG, without having any changes and how strong they look, probably are third. But Splyce are right there, too. They looked good in summer and have a shot at it here, too.
Something else that also kind of benefits Cyno unintentionally, I believe, from CLG is that they did go for the Nemesis. And early on, Nemesis is not the most potent jungler to have to worry about. It's not until you start hitting more of the mid-game stride that Nemesis can become very problematic, but this early on, she takes enough time as is just clearing her own creeps. And so with that in mind, Cyno definitely going to be a little bit less pressured out on this Chernobog than what he might have been.
Slice and Dice at one point was such a powerful tool. It did so much damage on that initial hit. The slow meant that Nemesis wouldn't have too hard time chasing you. She was able to engage with the blink and then dash to keep up with you on the back end as well. But it's a little bit, less now, so not quite as overwhelming as it once was. And so, yeah, now Nemesis early game can feel a little bit more escapable for some of these mids and hunters.
I definitely think this Splyce draft, though, was meant to cater more heavily towards Best. He's got to be the main component here to prevent a lot of that Baron sustain from being an issue there for Splyce. As long as he is timing his bodies appropriately, I think that Jigz might run into some heavy difficulties trying to work around the Puch.
Yeah, gotta make sure you're timing your body the right way there, Best. Out there in the middle lane, but you're not wrong. He's got to make sure that he's getting the actual anti-heal one out right, because Baron can control it relatively well if he needs to, like just hit minions to look for clear. But in the middle of a team fight, if he does hit an ally or an enemy and that heal goes to everyone around, there's nothing they can do about it, and that is a bit of an opportunity for Best to capitalize. But we speak of him, and now he's in trouble in middle lane. Does get taunted back, but it's Cyno who finds first blood for Splyce. Now fineokay might be in trouble, but an excellent portal gets him right on out of there.
fineokay just barely managing to cling on to dear life for that one, and it was only thanks to the through space and time from Hurriwind. So Janus already causing some confirmed issues there for Splyce, but Splyce probably more than happy to take that free kill underneath their tower. Best ends up losing his purification beads, but as long as he's got that crypt, it's going to be so difficult for CLG to work through that ultimate.
Absolutely is. CLG going to have to keep doing what they can to try and keep Best down, but right now he's making it look like it's not going to be easy. Would not be surprised. This is a Chronos pendant he runs into early to get that cooldown really rocking and rolling. Once Puch can really spam his abilities, he sort of reaches this new level, right? Because he can sort of stay sustained up with the corpses he doesn't need to use. He can zone you, control a bunch of space. Once you're on top of him, it's pretty easy, but if you're not, it feels like he's just controlling all the space.
The instantaneous counter rotation, though, from Cyno is something that CLG are certainly going to have to pay more mind to, because I don't think they were expecting that much burst potential from the Crystallized Curses Vicious Barrage combo. And then on top of that, fineokay, the only reason he actually ended up surviving there is because Cyno couldn't close the distance in time to get that final in-hand going.
And that was a good portal coming out from Hurriwind that sort of facilitated that. He is gone with a high cooldown build as well, so he can be sort of a utility mage for this team. And I feel like we've been seeing a little bit less Janus than we used to, when there's so many strong mid lane mages that you can go to for other things. But this utility that Janus is bringing out here, that Hurriwind wants to pilot, he's one of the best at it, especially in North America. His portals always are on point for repositioning the team. Through space and times are great as well. He can certainly get the most out of this god.
Every single time I see Hurriwind on this Janus actually hold that thought through space and time here. The commitment's forward on the charge there for Best, but he's going to end up getting pulled in. Shell will buy him a little bit of time, but Jigz with the final kill. Aror actually returning the favor, though, with a nice little cleanup onto Jigz. And they do find Best, just at what cost?
Yeah, that Nemesis ultimate just really deleted Best. I think he had a chance with that shell to make it out had it not been for that. Hurriwind has to use Aegis in middle lane to avoid Cyno. Splyce want to strip away this red buff. It's Homie and Snoopy here, but Snoopy's trapped in the cripple field. Petrify is good to stop Cyclone, but Beads gets him free and Snoopy falls. Now Hurriwind has to retreat and red buff invade can pick up where it left off. Homie wants to defend, but has to be very careful.
Use that slice and dice just a little bit too soon there. Nice job by Splyce to stop their DPS so they don't put the buff into kill range of Homiefe slice and dice. And I'm a fan. Splyce are making this bit of a janky draft work to their favor.
They absolutely are. This is the kind of thing that I think is Splyce's greatest strength, as Homie and Hurriwind have Cyno pinned down. Unstable Vortex won't find him, and Homie can't close the distance. Cyno looking very comfortable on this Chernobog, which, to be honest to God, you think he might not have practiced a ton, but Divios blink underneath the tower finds a kill on Hurry.
And Homiefe, he got a little bit of a heal there from Best, so he's going to end up getting stunned underneath his own T1 tower. Best with no further cooldowns to pursue, though, fortunately enough, and that'll be Nemesis staying alive to see him their day, but the same can't be said for Jigz. He just gets blown up.
Gets just deleted, sent all the way back to base, absolutely removed. Best making this Opwash look really good here in the middle lane, and he's got those pin boots and the Chronos pinned in, so he's got a little bit of extra power there. I think he hit him as well with that third ability to get a little bit of extra heal on and kind of stepped back into the Baron 2 to make sure there was as much damage as possible. Best really played that well.
And Fleeting Breath, I'm glad that was actually just highlighted a moment ago, because that'll be the main reason why CLG are unable to escape from Splyce. Even the slightest heal will end up amounting to a stun. The only thing it doesn't factor in is potions. So you can have the potions running and you won't get stunned from that level of sustain, but any other player heal, it does not matter. You will end up suffering for it and being caught out of position if you're not careful.
And we saw that happen just now as looking through the builds for CLG, they're placing a really high premium on cooldowns. Transcendence, the breastplate cooldown boots, look at Hurriwind's build, Jotun's, even Genji's as well as cooldown there for fineokay. They want to be able to cycle through their abilities often in their team fights. It makes me think they want to have these sort of long engaged ones where they can fire off multiple abilities.
Speaking of engages, Aror sniffing around CLG's red buff area, but with 4 members to defend, there's no chance for Splyce to work their way in this time around for an invade. And Best, understanding that there were multiple members surrounding that red buff, chooses to back up to that T1 tower line.
Is able to reposition. That position is going to be very important for Best on this Opwash, and he's done it well so far. And for CLG, if they do get the kill, at least to commit too far for the kill so his team can trade it out. He's done that well here so far, but I'm looking at these junglers a bit as well. Cyno is out in front of Homie here so far, 1-0-1, and absolutely making this Chernobog in the jungle work.
He's also opted for the Jotuns right away, a very unconventional build for any sort of hunter, but considering that it's Chernobog jungle to begin with, probably shouldn't expect the norm here.
Yeah, I like the idea of him prioritizing the cooldown to have those ultimates available as often as possible. The roots are going to be pretty key from him. And a lot of junglers now, we're seeing, because we see so many Najas and such, kind of going a little bit more defensive in utility, but with a Chernobog in the jungle, man, there's going to be plenty of damage.
I'm hoping that that's going to be a Crusher, by the way. That secondary mace tree item that Cyno's building into. Crusher just seems to fit the build best. You get the bonus ability damage off the Crystallized Curses, Vicious Barrage combo, not to mention the 20% attack speed, which is incredibly ideal when you're already a hunter in the jungle role.
That's right, and he probably won't be building a whole lot of dedicated attack speed items elsewhere, at least not just yet. So it'd be nice to be able to get that from that Crusher to try and accelerate him a little bit. So Cyno will certainly benefit from it. We're also seeing the Onis coming out from Aror. I feel like we've seen a little bit more of this item lately as well. It's sort of been getting a little bit more popular.
Definitely been getting a little bit more love. And speaking of which, Divios got company in solo, but fineokay won't manage to connect off that taunt. And Divios now seeing Homiefe in his presence, not going to worry about challenging.
That does mean, though, with that shown present on the right-hand side, that Splyce can pull the Gold Fury here, Taco. Hurriwind, Jigz, and Snoopy are all around. This will by no means be free, but a 4v3 should favor Splyce. Root coming out, Hurriwind already using portals, but now Homie is rotated. Defender of Olympus on cooldown. fineokay is here, and Splyce no longer have an easy Gold Fury.
But there's almost no interest from Splyce to continuously engage here. fineokay actually going to get caught out of position, and he is just getting decimated by the entirety of Splyce. No one from CLG even had an opportunity to come and try to bail out fineokay. They were just being zoned away by Divios' rotation.
Well, it's Gold Fury take 2 for Splyce, and it works out beautifully. I love seeing this from Splyce. This is what we don't see from them, I feel like, as much as some other teams, is that great recognition of baiting the Gold Fury, taking the fight and coming back. I feel like they're so good at getting lost in the chaos, but that time it was executed very, very cleanly.
This is just such a favorable team composition for Splyce. It's just calculated chaos. That's all they want to work with, and their space control from Best Ultimate on that Puch is what's going to be the best thing to keep an eye out here for, because just in case anyone from CLG manages to break through that, you still have to worry about the frontline peel from Aror, from Divios, and then, by the way, it's a Xbalanque and Chernobog as your prize for getting through all of that.
That's right. If you somehow make it there, these hunters are going to be shredding you, as CycloneSpin's gone the Transcendence Aussie rush here, so making up for the traditional sort of lack of power you can get from that Aussie with the big Transcendence power bank. So he'll have plenty of attack speed. Looks like he went Ninja Tabi as well, but not what we always see.
It feels like CLG envisioned themselves as being the primary initiators, and that's why they were trying to prioritize the cooldowns. They were hoping to be the ones just running down Splyce before they really had a chance to get this double hunter comp online. But Cyno and CycloneSpin, there's been unscathed pretty much the entire match so far, and I would argue that they're both in a great position right now to just roll on over to every single team fight.
There's a ton of pressure when you're trying to decide how to go in. There's the Puch on the other team because he does control so much space. And then you got to add into that Aror has been doing a great job with those ranged roots finding control, the cripple fields to make it easier to weave in and out. I think that the Puch and Aror kind of to credit for why Cyno and CycloneSpin are so comfortable.
And not to mention that a double hunter composition, probably one of the most difficult ones to try and actually slow down once they're up and running. And that is definitely the case here, because even if you cut off one, you still have to worry about the other. Splyce don't need both Cyno and Cyclone for an objective, but they can still manage to complete it incredibly fast with both of them, or just with one of them. And that just applies so much map pressure for CLG. They just don't know which direction they're going to have to worry about either side coming from.
Unfortunately for them, Pyromancer was the direction the last time it would happen, but they couldn't get there in time. Splyce, I think, had 4 members strong on that side of the map, and CLG couldn't really get over there to defend that one. So it's the Gold Fury and the Pyromancer going their way. That means they're up now, Taco, about 4,000 or so gold, 3,000 experience as well, to go along with their 6-1 kill lead, and really just not room for CLG to try and fight in.
And Divios also going to be collecting that solo lane tower pretty soon here. fineokay been struggling just a little bit, 2 levels down, in fact, and part of that's just from a couple of failed initiation rotations. It looked like CLG wanted to be the ones to start the fight underneath that Gold Fury, and then somehow fineokay just gets so separated from the rest of the team, just not expecting the amount of burst damage from Splyce.
And that's that CG chain we're talking about, at least during that fight around the Gold Fury, as the Tier 1 tower in mid should be able to get forced down easily. Hurriwind is rightfully falling back and doesn't do much damage to Aror. They've got a full mini wave and 4 members here, and they're going to keep putting in whatever damage CLG would allow them to. They have not responded this fast enough. It's down to half health, but that's enough to where Splyce finally back up. No, they dropped the ultimate. CycloneSpin forces the Tier 2 tower down, 1,500 gold.
Through space and time, not going to connect onto anybody, but Hurriwind will still manage to get pulled back in. Divios looking to control this Janus on the backside. Both relics forced out of Hurriwind now as Snoopy finally kills Best on the front side.
That is going to be the Puch down, but the Tier 2 tower is already gained. Cyno blinks past for Snoopy, but can't win that trade. CycloneSpin getting chased out by fineokay, does put down the slow, and Aror is there for the peel, so Cyclone should be fine. Snoopy and Jigz are able to take down Cyno, but now Snoopy should get traded back out, but avoids Jigz.
Great reach kill there from fineokay. Both the hunters just getting isolated and picked off perfectly there from CLG. But it already came at a pretty heavy price for CLG. To make that initiation happen in the first place, it was Splyce throwing themselves pretty deep into CLG's side of the map. They still got the T2 tower. They still managed to find a kill or two. And for what it's worth, I think Splyce definitely still benefited off of all that.
They were able to grab that tower, which does help them out a lot towards the beginning of the fight, but it does kind of hurt to give so much back on the back end, right? All that experience and just time that CLG can farm. Splyce are still in the driver's seat for sure, but CLG showing that they can answer back if Splyce do step too far out of line. Splyce got to maybe calculate if they want to go that hard for that tier 2 again.
It should be a little bit more
something like
considerate in the future for sure, because giving up that much in return for a T2 tower, not as worthwhile the later this game goes, especially now Hurriwind caught right back up to Best. Best had a pretty commanding lead over him for a time. And it's all about Splyce staying grouped up also. I think that Divios and Aror kind of lost track of their carries there.
They did get a little bit too far separated, and that was, I think through space and time is one of those things that just does that. It dissects the fight and can kind of split it up and allow the team that's casting it decide where to go. But perfectly timed, Splyce is right back here in time for that Gold Fury one more time, Taco. They do have CLG, some presence here. Petrify is not going to be enough. Splyce confirmed the Gold Fury and should be able to retreat easily.
Don't even think that anybody from Splyce had vision on Snoopy there. It was just Snoopy trying his best to make something out of nothing there for CLG, but he's going to come up short. And now Splyce not having to worry about the left-hand side of the map because the primary objective's already been taken. They can then shift their attention towards solo, look for some gank opportunities, and possibly even the Pyromancer.
And it feels like Snoopy was maybe, what, half a second early on that, if even. Like, he was so close to being able to strip that one away, and that would have been so huge to slow down Splyce, because as you said, they didn't know that Snoopy was there. They didn't have that vision control, and they almost paid for it. But fortunately, for Splyce at least, they're able to grab it, and they can push back out a little bit further. Now Pyromancer is up, Aror is around, trying to establish some control around this area.
Nice job there by fineokay as well to take that Magai's cloak off of Divios. If there's a fight within the next minute or so, Divios can get taunted in if he's not careful with his positioning. And already fineokay forcing Aror into the Kerpa field and on the retreat. Pyromancer is back up, and now it's going to be Cyno and Cyclone rotating with Best to look to pull this one.
CycloneSpin has it pulled already. Best is putting in plenty of his own damage. They give it up for a second through space and time, does clip it, but it's not enough. CLG are the ones to actually grab the objective, but engaging is Cyno. He's dived all the way onto Hurriwind and forced him back.
But he's going to go straight into the wall. Homiefe gets a nice ultimate there onto Cyno, but it's just immune pretty much. Cyclone all the while trying to engage onto fineokay by himself. Best going to end up finding Jigz, and this fight is just getting so split apart in favor of Splyce.
So far, it's 1-0 in Splyce's favor, as you said. The Pyromancer may have gone to CLG, but with everyone healthy, it's Splyce who are going to pull the Fire Giant. Divios will be able to teleport right back into the wards as well, and now, without through space and time, CLG have to defend, but they can't make it happen. Splyce get the Fire Giant and want to take the fight on the back end.
Divios going to go in and blink forward, find Snoopy with the pluck-in, and that's a quick kill for Best to go ahead and pick up. Just no chance whatsoever for that Medusa to stay alive. Didn't even get a chance to use those purification beads. Already knew when you're flying through the air, there's no point.
It's just no time to respond, I feel like, to that blink and then charge prey from Sobek that just plucks you right back to the rest of the team. And then once he landed, the Best just dropped the abilities and deleted him. But Fire Giant is going to be going their way, and a couple kills. Now the Tier 2 tower in solo. In a hurry, this game is tilted heavily into Splyce's favor, and they want to force down this Phoenix on the right-hand side.
Still only 2 members from CLG even in position to try and defend fineokay, and Hurriwind will make it back to base, but look at the zone control from Best. Perfect ultimate placement there right at the front side, and making sure to drop that one is Cyno and Cyclone.
Homie has to run away. fineokay is a little bit too low, does still have the dash, but won't even get it off. Divios finds that kill. They still have mid-Phoenix to go grab if they want, and 2 towers in right, but they also have a ton of gold in hand if they want to go spend it. Splyce right now are firmly in control.
The CLG just need to take a second and step back. That was probably a Phoenix you should forfeit to begin with. You didn't have fineokay and Hurriwind in position in time to help defend a little bit better. There was no frontline member there for CLG. It was just their carries being completely exposed. And a Nemesis can only do so much when there's just damage to follow it up and there's no actual peel to come through with it. Cyno and Cyclone doing a great job here with Best to just combine all of their damage, and the way that Splyce have kept CLG's death timers staggered is what I'm really keeping an eye out for here. CLG just need to press the hard reset for their own team.
Give themselves a chance to try and make a full-on defense the right way, but that's going to be even harder. Best just backed and bought that full Magai's cloak, which makes him so much safer now. The few big control tools that CLG have, you know, whether it's going to be the taunt from fineokay, who's been kind of making it a point of focus, they're going to need to find something to break it first and then try and re-engage on Best, but he makes it so difficult with the way he zones them all out. He dropped his ultimate the second they wanted to go in onto the Phoenix and just pushed everyone back.
Not to mention that CycloneSpin, within that Darkest Night, he gets extended bonus range on those auto attacks that can reach from outside of the Phoenix circle. He doesn't have to actually commit underneath the Firebird to get in-hand damage off on it.
They're going to drop the ultimate from CycloneSpin right away, and the ultimate from the Outposh as well, and that's a burned Phoenix just that quickly. Now, Aurora's going in rather deep. He has 3 members looking at him, but he's too tanky. They can't do enough to him. That is 2 Phoenixes down for Splyce. No towers remaining on the side of CLG either. They can go get this mid-Phoenix at their leisure.
The CLG don't even have a chance to respond. The Phoenix is gone by the time the ultimates end from Darkest Night.
This double hunter comp is shredding the objective at this point, and it feels like some of the benefits of these like pen-heavy builds that we're seeing come out are at the very least on the side of Cyno, where he's able to chunk through them and has CycloneSpin right there to help out as well. And you're right, those zoning tools, CLG can't even start the defense.
Oh no, Hurriwind found all by his lonesome here, forced into the Aegis already. fineokay gonna end up using that Defender of Olympus, but look at where the rest of Splyce is. They're on the mid-Phoenix. There's only 3 people from CLG that could possibly defend it. Snoopy and Jigz, the only 2 that are even in base. All the other 3 members chasing down Cyno, and this is just going to be Splyce looking for the game in.
Yeah, this should absolutely be GG. What a big play there from Cyno, and an overreaction from CLG. They send 3 people over to try and make the defense happen. That means that the rest of Splyce can just barrel down, take the Titan, and really in a game that felt even for like 18 minutes, the last 6 were all Splyce.
Splyce, just from that Fire Giant and onwards, it was non-stop aggression, and there was no slowdown whatsoever. It was just very well executed at the end there. They take the objective, they make sure to properly utilize that double hunter composition to immediately siege the Phoenixes. But I was most impressed with Divios there and the way that he was constantly plucking members of CLG out of position to keep those death timers staggering.
Definitely looked strong for him. Was that enough for him to win your MVP vote? Let us know now in the Mixer poll. I'm still thinking Best, and Cyno has some nice claims at MVP as well. The Outposh really kind of felt like what pushed it over the edge and left no options for CLG to fight back.
We've been talking about it for some time now, that the meta, it's not truly defined so far in Season 5. Just about anything can work if you put the right components together. And I can't think of a better example than this last match.
So we saw from Splyce able to do something a little bit unique and make it work. But is it going to work for them in Game 2? We'll get thoughts on that and Game 1 from the desk.
Thanks so much, guys. That was really interesting. It's one of those situations where you're like, this doesn't look good, but if it works and you throw the enemy team for a loop, that's exactly what happened there.
Exactly. The curveball forced CLG to strike out, unfortunately. The Outposh was just a little too much to handle. Gem of Isolation utility. A lot of penetration between these 2 hunters, making it more difficult for fineokay to survive, even having the Merguardian Mail available. There was no horrific emblem, however, from CLG to handle the double hunter.
Yeah, not gonna lie though, Tony. I think the best of Outposh in the mid lane is one thing, but the Chernobog jungle that really came up big at the start of the game, that very first gank, and he got the first blood there. But the Best will get MVP. You know why? Because he's playing Outposh, and everyone loves to see Outposh win.
He just has so much control in these team fights, dropping and releasing the crypts. Look at this one play individually, just understanding he had enough DPS to take out Jigz's life when the support just not that tanky that early.
But that's a big talking point of this first game, though, is how CLG just didn't seem to have an answer. They weren't ready for this sort of composition, clearly. They tried to make things work with the Janus and the Athena combination, but it didn't work out. I think a quick, hefty Chernobog ban and things might be different.